Hey guys, welcome to Cyber Career Advancement. I am here with a special guest. We have Ian here. Woohoo! Ian is so special. Ian is one of my long-term clients who was able to land his job opportunity, and today he is going to walk you through the journey. So Ian, thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
Anytime, Ashley. Glad to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
providing what you provided.
Oh man, well, before we even get into that, let's start from the beginning, okay? So, what made you decide that you even wanted to get into like GRC or cybersecurity?
I always liked frameworks. Always been familiar with them. And tech is something I looked into a while back, but I never took advantage of. So when the opportunity came to get into the cybersecurity realm, I jumped at it. I was in an industry prior that would fluctuate a lot, and I wanted something that had more consistency and longevity. And speaking with some folks, getting some advice, getting some intel in the industry, cybersecurity seemed to be something that could provide that. On top of that, the GRC realm was something that I think helped out with that a lot as well. Um, Especially for me, more specifically, the PCI framework. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, nice. Now I want to tell y'all something. Ian is the prime example of resilience and bouncing back. Let me tell you, anytime somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, like, this is hard or whatever, I'm like, you need to talk to Ian because he never gave up. He just kept on going. So we're going to get into that even more. Okay. So you do some training, right? You learn
Mhm.
about the PCI framework. And then what happens? Like, did you
Uh,
immediately get into your job or like, what happens?
so after learning the cybersecurity framework, the next thing is preparing for an interview. um, so yeah. Um, and I want to see what happens. You mean like after learning about GRC and getting familiar with it, what's the next step?
Yeah, so like you learn the information like before you even come to me, right? You
Mhm.
learn the information. Did you like start applying out immediately? Like what led you to ultimately end up finding me?
Oh, so yeah. So one, so what crossed my mind is that interviews don't happen all the time. And when you get access to an interview, I want to be able to maximize it. And um, knowing that you offer the service of one resume building and interview prep, I knew that I want to maximize and get myself as interview ready as possible, where I'm not stumbling, fumbling, and bumbling, which I'm glad I did because I remember the first prep session we ever had, and you asked me an interview prep question. I literally drew a blank, even though it was prep, and I had no response. And after that course, I was just like, okay, yeah, I really need to work on this. Then the second interview we had, I stumbled, bumbled, and fumbled my response, and I'm like, okay, but I'm getting better. So, yeah, that's my next step, having to refine how to actually speak, carry myself, and talk during an interview with the knowledge that I have um, to provide.
That's so good. I actually remember it. And I remember specifically saying, "Are you glitching?" Do
You
you
know,
remember when I asked you that?
yeah, I remember exactly, and I'm just like, when he asked me that the first question in the prep, I was like, I know how to answer this, but nothing was coming out my mouth. Like to formulate it correctly in sentences in English, it just wasn't working. And the second time, it just wasn't working well.
And I remember your eyes. I can't even do it, but I'm gonna try. Your eyes are going like this.
Right.
I was like, what is that?
It's like up until that point, you kind of think, oh, interview is easy. I just talk about what I know. But then when you actually get in the position, you're like, wait a second. I need to put a lot of thought into what I'm going to say and have it carry across the way the person wants to hear it. um, it's different. It takes work.
Yeah. No, that's real. And you just kept getting better and better every single session that you attended. Um, in your opinion, would you say that I am an easy interviewer?
I would say you have ranges where you can be easy if you want to, and then you also could be very detailed and technical. Um, so if I tell you hold no punches, you know how to hold no punches, and that's how I like it. At least it got harder as I got better with interviewing, which is good.
That's good. That's good. I always tell people there's rounds to this, right? So, like, you might talk to your recruiter who may not be as technical, so it's probably going to feel a little bit easier. They're going to ask you all the behavior scenario, but as you start getting up, you start progressing further in your interviews, they want very detailed stuff, and so you prepared yourself for it. And as you can see, look here. So, in your particular case, I think you had the most interviews of anybody that I have ever worked with. And so I want to ask you, um, what was your approach to actually doing your job hunt? I know I'd shared with you guys what I wanted you guys to do, but how did you incorporate that into your strategy?
Oh man, at one point, I'd have to say, when was this? I was doing about maybe 300 applications a month. Like I
Yep.
would just apply to jobs until my laptop died. I'd wake up in the morning, sit down, start applying, and then when my laptop died is when I took a break, and then do it over again. So that was my approach to doing that. And I've saved every application um, in my inbox that I applied to, so I'm able to track everybody that I've applied to and the responses from those applications. So I would say that was my approach, and also um, communicating on LinkedIn. That helped out a lot. Trying to be relevant, making posts that's correlates with the field that I'm in, also helped a lot. I got responses from Dice, from LinkedIn, from Indeed, um, those places. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were putting out a lot of applications, and so I always tell people aim for 5 to 10 applications each day. And so the fact that you were doing that is perfect, and you learned how to sort out the scams from the legitimate ones. And at one point, you were getting like what, four, almost five interviews in a single week. Like
Mhm.
you were getting a lot of interviews. And
Yeah.
I remember you'd be like, Ashley, can you do a one-on-one mock interview session with me tomorrow? I got an interview the following day. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yep. Yep. It was really interesting getting the first call from a recruiter and then getting several calls from a recruiter in one day and then multiplying that throughout the week and then having the first interview with the hiring manager and then move on to other interviews and just speaking with you and understanding what the expectations were before going into those realms helped a lot to remove that fog and to allow me to communicate the way I should communicate when speaking in those circumstances.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember too, like you used to share, I've got this interview coming up in Cyber Tribe, and everybody was rooting. And do you remember like how many people were like liking and congratulating you when I finally published that you had landed your job?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's a lot of love, a lot
You
of
had a
love.
team of support, man, a
Yep.
straight up team. I said, Ian, do you see this?
Hmm.
Texting them, do you see this, Ian? Look at all this love you are getting.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, it was overwhelming. It was really good.
Was there ever a time where you felt like this isn't going to work?
Um, Not really. There may have been, but I can't think of it because what I recall is seeing progress every step. At least if I did, um, it wouldn't be for long because if I reflect, I would see progress every step of the way. Where, um, you know, first I couldn't even respond to an interview question, then I fumbled with it, then I got better with it, or I wasn't getting recruiters to call me. and then I had one call me one week, and then more would call. So um, I would say being able to reflect and see there's progress being made over time, not overnight, um, is was motivating.
Okay, that's good. And it's good too that you use that to push you through because sometimes people think that this process is going to happen overnight and they don't
Mhm.
realize like the sacrifices that you guys make to get the opportunities that you get from
Mhm.
applying to jobs until your laptop dies. Like that's hours that you could have been watching TV or doing something else, right? To
Yeah.
the constant rejections that you get to be able to bounce back and say, okay, I'm still going to apply. And I'm still going to keep interviewing because I know my role is out there. So that's why I
Mhm.
say, like, Ian, you're so resilient. I'm really proud of you. Like, I can't even begin to express how proud I am. I know you're gonna be like, oh, shut up, but I mean it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, just to add more of that, just being consistent, not expecting things to happen overnight, and just making progress little by little, definitely is motivating. Yeah.
So I want you to talk to me about what happened when you went through the interview that you actually landed the role? Like, not going into the company. It is one of the largest financial institutions in the world. But talk to me a little bit more about that. Were you sweating when you woke up in the morning? Were you like, oh my God, I got a pimple? Like, what were you thinking?
Oh man. At that time, we've done quite a few sessions, so um, I play a lot of sports. So as long as you work harder during practice, usually game time is easy. So I wouldn't say I was sweating as I have for previous interviews, but I would say I felt prepared, and it made the interview very pleasant. Not a lot of pressure, also very familiar. So yeah, I would say that was the outcome of it, because I think we did a session right before that interview, which helped out a lot. And you didn't hold any punches, which was great. So
What did I
um,
say? Do you remember anything that I said to you in particular? Like, because when you say you didn't hold any punches, I feel like I'm beating you up. So, what did I actually say that you're like, no
so
punches?
it's not that you didn't beat me up. You find things that I can adjust to make better. Um, and it wasn't till towards our later sessions where you told me a few times like, I have no response, that was good, and I'm just like, wow, really? so so getting feedback on how to refine my approach um, in a session before the interview helps me to identify ways I could show up more more official, um, which helps out a lot.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I remember that too. I remember being like, that was a really good response. Like, I can't say nothing bad about that one. Not a single one. And I don't usually say that much. So when I do, you know
Right.
it's meant.
Yep.
I was like, wait a second now. Like, I have to really dig to find something that I can give you an improvement area on. You were
Yeah,
just,
it's like you have a beginner level, a mid level, and a hard level. And if I'm at your hard level and you have no responses, it's like, okay, all right, you taught me well.
you start feeling like, you know what, I think this job might be mine. And it is, because look at you.
Mhm.
How long have you been on this job now?
2 months.
2 months. Do you like it?
Yeah, 2 months.
See,
Yeah, I love it.
that right there, that was the glitch. Y'all saw that.
Uh,
If you didn't see it, replay it back. That was the eye thing
uh,
I was talking about earlier.
that's me looking in my memory bank. Oh man. I love it. I love it. It's awesome. Manager's awesome. Um, the workload is familiar. Um, so it's great. It's great. What I expected during the interview. What One thing too that you taught is to also ask questions. To not just how to answer questions, but how to ask questions too. So I was able to ask questions to get familiar, and some expectations are what they were regarding the answers that I received from the questions that I asked. So That was
Okay.
also good.
Do you remember like one of the questions that you asked?
Understanding the dynamics of who is going to be working with you, how many people, what's the team size, the structure, um, what the workload's going to be like, things like that, to understand if it's something that's going to be crazy, if it's something that's going to be manageable, what's the environment going to be like, potentially the culture, if it's something that, you know, you'd want to be a part of, or maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. And I sometimes I look at other people's like career advisors and stuff like that, and they always say, don't ask about the company culture. Don't ask that. You should already know that. But the key here is identifying what is it going to be like in this role, because some of these companies will offer you an $85,000 salary for what should be a $200,000 salary worth of work. Right? You'll be the only person on the team. They want you to manage their company, their subsidiaries, and just it's crazy. So it's always good to ask those kinds of questions like Ian did, so you can know before you even take the role if this is something that you want to get yourself into, especially if you're doing GRC work. So good job, man. Good job. So like what happens next? What happens next for Ian?
Um, cou- Couple things. So right now, I'm on a contract. So it's a contract to hire. So I either have the option of, if I get offered a full time, I could take that, or um, I could potentially look for other options. However, the the environment that I'm in right now seems very nice, very familiar. So I have to juggle between those two options.
Yeah, and hopefully it ends up being the one where you feel the most fulfilled and happy, because it is ultimately like in life we only get one.
Right.
Um, and we are only getting older, right? And so
Mhm.
if you can have a role that brings you peace, that you enjoy, that compensates you well, then that's
Mhm.
all that matters. Um,
Absolutely.
and I guess before we wrap up, here's my question to you. Knowing where you are right now versus when we first got started in this journey working together, right?
Mhm.
What advice would you give that person?
Ask that question one more time.
Yep. So think about where you were when we first got started in this journey. You had already did the training, and
Yeah.
now it was, oh my God, I've got to prepare and do this work and all of this, right?
Mhm.
Where you are right now is where a lot of people want to be. What advice would you give to that person who is maybe struggling to land a job offer in GRC? They have the knowledge, they have the skills, but are struggling to make that transition. What advice would you give them?
I would say the key is how you communicate through an interview. So as much prep as possible. Um, Doing sessions with you helped out a lot, but even the tips and the techniques you taught me when you weren't around to continue my prep or sharpening my skills helped out a lot. I would do that for a couple hours a day, um, just on my own,
That's good.
prepping, and it helped out tremendously. I'd say a lot of my growth came through there, and then doing my sessions with you kind of validated what I've been prepping on my own, which helped to refine it even more. So what I would say is definitely prioritize practice. And like I say in sports, practice 10 times harder than the game. And when the game time comes, it'll be easy. Um, and then I would also say manage expectations. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. Everybody comes to the field at a different level of skill. So make sure that whatever level you are, you have proper expectations, for time frames, that you're
Mhm.
not expecting things to happen overnight. Um, and let's put in the work. I mean, that's the best advice I would give.
And I love that advice. It is so spot on. While you were talking, I was just like, I was smiling internally because I'm like, man, like I'm looking at the Ian today in front of me who is so different from the Ian I met just a few months ago. Like night and day. I'm like, I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm just so proud. So, so proud of you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I wish that session was recorded so I could look back and laugh at myself at being glitching at that question you asked me.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure you could go inside Tribe and find it.
Okay, okay. I gotta look for it. I gotta look for it.
I'll see if I can find it too on my end because I can go through transcripts and stuff. I hope I have it.
Me too.
I would love for you to see it, or you can just look at this and you will see it firsthand. No, I'm not even playing. I'm dead serious. But all jokes aside, super proud of you. You're gonna continue to do amazing. I want to thank you so much for coming here. Oh, and before we wrap up, I have one final question. Um, you mentioned the mock interview service. So what services did you actually have with me altogether?
So I could recall two services. One, joining Cybertribe, and then two, doing the one-on-one interview sessions.
Okay.
So um anytime, well, even before I had interviews lined up, I was doing interview sessions with you just to refine my skills and also working with the techniques you gave me on the side. And then also, before any interviews came up, just to make sure I'm articulating things correctly, I would do another session maybe a day before with you or two. Um, so those two services helped me out a lot, helped me to knock out any articulating cobwebs out the way, and then you're able to refine those.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, you record the sessions that we had, so I'm able to rewatch it right before as well. So I think those two things helped out tremendously.
Okay, awesome. Cybe Tribe. Let me tell you, Cybe Tribe, we are so powerful in that community because the way that everybody supports and uplifts each other through every single stage of the interviewing process is amazing.
hmm hmm
Absolutely
Absolutely.
amazing.
And actually, I just want to say thanks for providing the service because I don't know if I would have been able to refine my interview skills if you didn't make yourself available for this. So I'm glad you started doing this and be able to make yourself available the way you do because I don't see myself of I don't see myself getting any better with interviews the way I did if this wasn't accessible to me. So I appreciate you doing that and the sacrifices you making too to make this happen. I see that as well. I know
Oh,
sometimes I'm just like, you're sick, Ashley. Let's do another day. Like, no, let's get it done. You got an interview tomorrow. We got to make it happen.
yes, the COVID and everything over here,
Mhm.
coughing and chest hurting, but I'm like, we got to get you prepared because you have an interview. We need you to get that job.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. Thank you a lot. I'm grateful. I say thank you to God all the time for even allowing me to be able to do this for you guys. It's really meaningful work for me. And like I said, just being able to see where you are now versus when we first got started and the full transition, I'm like, yeah, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. So, all right, Ian, I want to thank you so much for coming, for talking with all of us today about your experience, and know that I am rooting for you. Continue advancing, accelerating, and, continue striving further and further. And I'm here anytime you need me.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you.
All right.